Seems like it would be hard to explain. It really does. Well, and that experimental surgery, you had naysayers about that, but you also had people really positive about that. And you talked about the whole stem cell situation, and I can't even talk about it without getting angry. It's so insane to me that what Bush did, and you talked about a specific friend who really, or other people too, who really didn't know the difference between adult stem cells and embryonic stem cells, and were just sort of like going away with, just forget the whole thing. And that's what I love about your book. I mean, you bring up insurance, you bring up family, you bring up support, you bring up doctors. I mean, there's so much. And, if you can I would love if you could educate us a little bit about stem cells, because I think it is such an important issue. My best friend had stem cells in his eyes and can see.
Oh, really?
It's not perfect, but yeah, he has a genetic condition.
Yeah.
And his sight was going, and they did this. It took 4 surgeries, but he's working now. He hadn't worked in years, and so I'm so into stem cells. So
what's interesting about stem cells and stem cell research is that many times, and this is true for a lot of medical conditions, people will get involved when it's too late, when they find out they have an illness, or a condition like a spinal cord injury, where it can help it. It's almost like too little too late. It's always good to support, a research that if you don't support embryonic stem cells, then you can also support adult stem cell research. There's a lot of different types of research that are going on, especially with stem cells. They're using combination therapies along with the stem cells to make them work even better. My experience with them is that I'm noticing a definite gain. And I also had adult stem cell procedures done in Germany last summer.
Oh.
And I notice strength. I'm noticing new muscles that I'm getting back. I'm noticing regeneration, and it's working. I mean, it's not the stem cells that are doing all of the work. I do 5 hours of therapy every day. I take a lot of vitamins, and staying healthy is important, but if you're just relying on the stem cells, you're not going to get better. It has to be multidisciplinary.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the issue, I personally feel like now it has shifted from less of a hot topic issue to more focusing on the money that is needed for the stem cell research. Because now that the ban on the stem cell research has been lifted, the issue is now funding that research, which is an issue. That's always a big issue.
Yeah, it is an issue, but it's so important. Now, like I said, I took a lot of notes. I just absolutely loved your book. And, there was something that I thought was really great. You have a friend, it was a Suzanne or Susan? Suzanne.
Yeah.
And she teaches yoga, and she got you into breathing. Now, that was toward either the end of the ICU, or I think you were actually in the first rehab center, if you can tell us about that.
Yeah. I was a patient at Mount Sinai, which is maybe 5 blocks north of where we are now. And she was my boss when I worked at magazines. And she took a year off, became a yoga instructor, and my left lung had totally collapsed after my injury. I was supposed to be on a ventilator. I couldn't speak. So they wanted me to do breathing exercises to get my lung capacity back to not normal, but nearly normal. And so they gave me a lot of these kind of toys to use.
Yeah.
I hated them. I mean, maybe I did them for 20 minutes. You're supposed to do them for 3 hours. And I couldn't stand it. I mean, I'm a very hyper person, and I'm very, if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So my sister, Charlotte, and my best friend, Alex, brought in a CD player. And he happened to have, the best of ABBA with him or something.
Yeah.
And he just put the CD in and played it loud, and I just started singing karaoke.
Oh, that's great.
That I started doing in the ICU. And in singing, I started to get back my lung capacity within days of doing that, just because I was doing so much more than they would have even told me with the breathing exercises, because I just enjoyed doing it. And then with Suzanne, I started to do the 3-part breath.
Okay.
And guided meditation. So kind of using meditation for healing, the 3-part breath, and then a way to kind of relax. And then we started doing a little bit of yoga and movement, and little by little kind of getting comfortable with what was going on inside my body and making it heal from the inside out.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm such a big proponent of that. I was so, happy to read about that. Now, look, and one thing that you wrote, which is so true, is, how can science ever move forward if no one's ever open to trying something new? And if you can expand on that a little bit with your experiences.
Well, it goes back to seeing a spinal cord injury as a death sentence, and that you're going to, now living in this chair is your life, and you're going to die in this chair. So when you're first told that, it feels like your life that you had before had ended. And it's not a disease. There's nothing wrong with your body other than the fact that your nerves need to grow in your spine. So it's very specific, and because of that, and because my father is a doctor, my sister's a doctor, I grew up in a family of science, there's a certain sense of fallacy in medicine. And there's also a sense of ingenuity that you have, and new discoveries, and keeping the mind open to newness. And I think that for me, there was never a doubt in my mind that I would have to help kind of forge in that way, because Christopher Reeve did, and he was moving his finger. He was moving his index finger. So if he could move his index finger, and if within a couple days I was already moving my shoulder when I shouldn't be, and I was breathing, and I was breathing a couple of weeks after that, and then a couple of months after that I was talking, it was kind of like, if all of these things started to add up to the truth, then why couldn't we stretch that and bring more truth to that, and kind of go beyond what it means to have a spinal cord injury to full recovery?
Well, you have gone beyond. I mean, I used to work in adaptive PE, and the folks that I worked with and I became friends with that were quadriplegics. I mean, they had some movement, but I mean, you're like, it's it's great. I'm like, woo, we're dancing over here. I mean, seriously, and it's because you worked so hard and you believed in yourself, and your family. Your family is amazing. I would love to speak with your parents.